Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you like this watch, you can see it and purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a timepiece that already feels like it's vintage, and approaching its second decade, it practically is. This is the legendary and scarcely seen Breitling Navitimer Spatiographe Montbrillant, appropriating the nomenclature of a vintage Breitling chronograph. This was a 1997 to 2002 model designed for an incredibly specialized pilot application, timing your descent while landing or holding. And for armchair aviators, this need may never occur to the mind, but the reality is that pilots don't always get to land when they want to, and thus there is a 10-minute countdown timer based on a module built by Breitling in-house that gives you minutes and half minutes from 10 minutes down to 0. The timepiece is also traditional in its size and details. 41.5 millimeters in diameter, it's not far off the original 1954 Navitimer reference 806 in its 40 millimeter case. It's a fairly thick watch, being a modular complication at 15 millimeters thick, but lug-to-lug, it's nice and compact. Only 47.9 millimeters. I can recommend this watch for wrists as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. The one surprising dimension is the 22 millimeter lug spacing, which feels more contemporary than vintage. Other vintage elements include the tritium dial. This is the real deal, as this model right here was built between 1997 and 1999. We know because it has a non-chronometer reference number. From 2000 to 2002, they were chronometers. That's the majority of the models built. From 97 to 99, they were non-chronometers, and those are less common. You'll also note off-axis a little bit of a yellowish tinge to the crystal. That's a mineral crystal, which is to say a true glass crystal. The strap is a Breitling aviator style calfskin black, contrasting white stitch generously bolstered down the center, sheer-sided. You can see the twin layers of construction, calfskin in a more natural tone on the underside, and a Breitling steel pin buckle that is correct to the watch. I particularly like the slotted design so that the strap sits in between the two stanchions of the buckle rather than stacking up and adding height on the wrist. Nice attention to detail by late 90s Breitling. The watch is rarely seen. It was uncommonly purchased and rarely made, and thus well into its second decade, because of the tritium dial, the mineral glass, the rarity, and the distinction from anything Breitling currently makes in size, at least for men. This does feel like one of the last traditional vintage-style Breitling aviation timepieces. It does have the traditional Navitimer case, lightly beveled lugs, all of high polish, minimalist, a few strong case horizontals, as you'll note. There's a down-stepped case back from the mid-case to the case back, a small bevel that flares at the edge of the lugs, all of high polish, and a very deep and sharp knurling about the bezel, so you can easily grip it, even if your hands happen to be wet, sweaty, or gloved. You can get an excellent purchase on this bidirectional calculator-style bezel, and people always ask me, how do you use this thing? And the answer is, it's basically a calculator for multiplying and dividing. So, for example, let's say I wanted to divide 60 by 30. I'm going to take 60 here on the index, and I'm going to line it up with 30 on the inner scale. So 60 over 30, just like a fraction. I got my numerator 60, my denominator 30. I'm going to look to the index, which is 10 on the inner scale. Just above it, you can see 2 or 20, depending on what your units are. You need to remember units, but right there, I just divided 60 by 30 and got 2, or I divided 60 by 3 and got 20. It's that simple. Reverse the order if you want to multiply. Put the number to be multiplied over the index. So let's say I want to multiply something, then I'm going to place 60 over 10. I want to multiply 60, let's say, by 2. Now I'm multiplying, so I put the number to be multiplied over the index, and I find 2 on the inner scale, and you can see right next to 2, 2, 0, 1, 2. So 60 times 2 is 120. Remember, you have to remember your units. Now, back to the Spatiographe. This is what makes the watch special. It is a 10-minute countdown chronograph, and I may as well stop it and move that minute hand out of the way because it's an unwanted interloper at the moment. And it is a scrolling countdown timer from 10 minutes. Once it reaches the end of its travel, it begins the countdown again. And the timepiece is wonderfully arrayed in a fashion that makes it look and function different than any other Breitling watch, so it is truly special. It doesn't feel like another rotating bezel Navitimer or Montbrillant cranked out with indifference to detail. It feels like a one-off, and it truly is. You can see that the dial features all applique hours inboard of original tritium dots of luminova, countersunk registers. The timepiece featuring a Breitling semi-manufacturer caliber 36, 30 meters water resistant. It was a special watch back in the day. Automatic winding based on an ETA 2892A2. Any good watchmaker can make this watch keep chronometer time. 42-hour power reserve, bidirectional winding. It features a Breitling chronograph module on top, the Spatiographe module, so you can see the pushers are above the central axis of the crown. It does feature hacking seconds for setting the watch precisely to a reference time. This is old school watchmaking, a tablissage, taking the best parts, adding your own spin, your own complication, your own finish, style, and purpose. This watch is Breitling to the core, old school Breitling. Already vintage, you can see this collectible and make it yours on the Watchbox.